Carlo Ancelotti is without doubt one of the greatest managers of all time, but at 65 years old and with Real Madrid looking unlikely to win any silverware this season, reports suggest Don Carlo's time in Madrid is coming to an end. Ancelotti's previous long-term replacement was an iconic former Real Madrid midfielder who revolutionised the side tactically. If Ancelotti were to leave, there's another former Real Madrid midfielder that's doing pretty well in management. Hello, welcome back, I'm Statman Dave, and today we're going to take a look at how Xabi Alonso would set up Real Madrid. Of course, if you are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, but anyway, let's get this party started. The man to bring an end to Bayern Munich's dominance in Germany, Xabi Alonso combines offensive gegenpressing elements inspired by Jurgen Klopp with a tiki-taka based approach based on Pep Guardiola. Combine this with a hint of relationalism, Xabi Alonso has truly created his own unique brand of football. Whilst that sounds very exciting and very effective, with Alonso guiding Leverkusen to an invincible season for the first time in Bundesliga history, what does his record-breaking system actually look like? As Bayer Leverkusen manager, Xabi Alonso has favoured a 3-4-2-1, although he's tinkered with a 3-5-2 and in rare instances a 4-4-2. His preferred shape consists of a goalkeeper who's comfortable in possession, but not a ball-playing specialist like Manchester City's Ederson. Alonso's back three has a more traditional central defender with more expansive outside centre-backs. Looking at this further, one is generally more of an outside centre-back, whilst the other operates almost like a fullback, moving wide in build-up and occasionally supporting attacks. In terms of wing-backs, Jeremy Frimpong operated from the right almost like a winger, whilst Alex Grimaldo was more of a complete wing-back who operated in all aspects, at times holding the attack in width, other times dropping deep, sometimes playing as a traditional fullback as well as inverting into midfield. Alonso's double pivot was made up of a controlling number 6 and a more energetic but technically gifted number 8. Meanwhile, on attacking midfield, the left number 10 was more of a playmaker who'd pull the strings in the final third, whilst the right one was more of a second striker who would focus on off-the-ball runs. Finally, Alonso has used a variety of strikers, finding success with a traditional fixed point number 9 like Patrick Schick, as well as a more mobile forward like Victor Boniface. So let's start by looking at the composition of the goalkeeper and the back three. As we mentioned, Alonso's Leverkusen were quite attacking on their right-hand side, with the right wing-back operating as a nominal winger, and the right-sided centre-back as a wide centre-back that could move into that area if Frimpong had moved inside. For Real Madrid, though, I expect this to be flipped, due to Trent Alexander-Arnold being the right wing-back, but also maybe Fran Garcia or Rodrigo on that left-hand side. So I think naturally what we'll see for Real Madrid under Alonso is a more of a winger, playing as a left wing back, and the outside centre back on the left hand side being a wide centre back. This really suits their squad. So looking from a goalkeeper, first and foremost, Courtois will be between the sticks. Don't need a massively ball-playing goalkeeper. Courtois is fine, but he is an elite-level shot stopper, perfect for Alonso's style. Moving into the defence, let's start in the middle. A key component of the defence at Bayer Leverkusen was the strength of that centre-back position. A traditional defender, a guy that needs to be able to cover the two outside centre-backs, but also win a lot of his duels. That 101 is Antonio Rudiger, the perfect player to be Alonso's centre-back in Real Madrid. Now let's move to the right-hand side of that back three. This has to be a ball-playing centre-back. Tapsoba for Alonso, ranked number 1 for defenders, for passes into the final third, and for progressive passes. This player needs to be a very confident ball player that can really distribute from deep. Of course, we could see a number of players playing this role. Potentially Tchouaméni, if he's needed, could drop back and play that right-sided centre-back position. But I think Real Madrid have got to use one of their academy graduates in this role. And that, of course, is Asensio. He's a player that's really come on this season, has impressed in the Champions League. Good at breaking lines with passes, but also a good defender. The other thing when you think about Alonso's sides is the outside centre-backs will defend in those wide areas. This is something that Asensio has done in his career, having played right back a few times for Real Madrid. So let's move to the left-hand side of the defence. This is where it's a little bit more exciting. This arguably is a fullback that's being converted into a centre-back. As we mentioned, they're playing a wide centre-back role. Of course, that could be Mendy. Ferland Mendy has locked down Real Madrid's left-hand side from a defensive sense for the last 3 seasons, going into a lot of teams of the season for the Champions League. Basically, the attacker ahead of him didn't do too much defensive work, so Mendy would have to deal with a lot. So he's very capable in a defensive sense, dealing with those situations. situations. But also he's relatively decent getting forward. I wouldn't say it's his best part of his game, but can provide crosses into the box. From this outside centre-back role, I think this is perfect for Mendy. Alternatively, if you want to go a little bit more offensive in that position, David Alaba, once again, is another player that's played the real top level as a centre-back and a left-back, and even in midfield for Austria and Bayern Munich. He's another player that would add attacking quality. You're thinking he's probably the attacking option, whereas Mendy is probably the more defensive option for Alonso. If he's, playing a big team, you've got an opposition right winger that causes problems, get Mendy in the side, because quite frankly, he could dominate those 1v1 situations. In possession, Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen look to build out from their goalkeeper, often pushing a wing-back high and creating a 3-4-2-2 with the goalkeeper splitting the centre-backs. Ball progression often comes by inviting pressure and breaking lines with diagonal passes and third-man runs, or by using quick and short passing combinations to work the ball into advanced areas. Quite a pragmatic coach, if necessary, Alonso will instruct his players to play long into the wide areas. Creating passing diamonds around the ball is a key concept for Xabi Alonso. And whilst he's got clear beliefs in positional football, he also incorporates relationalism by having players operate in close proximity to one another. Not only does this allow for quick passing combinations, but it sets Alonso's side up well to counter-press if possession is lost. So now let's move into the double pivot. Given the fact that the two wing backs are really important in the final third, the double pivot is an area that needs real quality. It's the engine room of the team. You're looking to combine a controlling player with a real box-to-box player with a massive engine, a player that can press high, that can really win the ball back. So for Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen, Granit Xhaka has been converted into one of the best sixes in the world. Since the start of last season, Granit Xhaka has had more touches than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues, and he's completed the most passes into the final third. So this player at the base of midfield is super important to get on the ball and then fire the ball forward to his teammates. The relational nature of it means that he'll have a lot of options, and I think that's an interesting side. Whenever Alonso's side moved the ball into midfield, there's always kind of a diamond of options, be it the 9 at the tip, let's say he's moved over to support the play, of course the number 10 inside, and the wing back on the side. They'll always create these types of diamond shapes to really help progression and help them move the ball with third man runs or short passing combinations. I think when you're looking at Real Madrid's squad, who can be the Granit Xhaka? I never thought I'd be saying those words. Well, first and foremost, I quite like the idea of Valverde playing that role. He's done it a number of times this season, playing as the 6 to quite a good level. I like the way he passes, he breaks the lines, and fires the balls into the feet of certain attackers at certain moments. I think he's well suited to that position. But Ezequiel Palacios is one of my favourite players in Europe's top 5 leagues. Valverde's skill set seems very, very similar. That box-to-box 8 that's so important in terms of pressing, moving into areas to receive possession, and being really, really good in terms of getting into space. I think Valverde's skill set, the goals that he scored for Real Madrid as well over the years, I think he's got to be the 8 for this Real Madrid side. So we are looking at the number 6. Who can play there? I think there's a number of options for Real Madrid. I think you've got the likes of Tchouaméni that's shown some good moments for Real Madrid, but maybe not as dominant as we expected. When he plays for France, he looks a lot better. But I really like what Camavinga's been doing this season. Of course, he's missed a lot of it with injury, but when he's played, he's been quite good. I like him as a playmaker, and we've got to remember he's 21 years old. He is the perfect type of player for Alonso to mould into his number 6. Think about the work that he did with Granit Xhaka. Could do some incredible things with Camavinga. That pairing of Valverde and Camavinga has it all. Has the playmaking, has the real energy and pressing of Valverde to go and win the ball back and then supplement the attack. Again, Alonso's kind of shape is so fluid that at times you will see, the number 8 moving into an attacking midfield position to get into positions to get on the ball. It's super, super fluid all over the pitch. There's a lot of interchange in positions and so forth. So Valverde's box-to-box role, Camavinga controlling the play, I think is perfect. If Real Madrid want to go more offensive, Jude Bellingham, again, would be perfect for that 8 role. Everything we mentioned previously, the ability to win duels, to carry, to pass the ball forward, Bellingham has that. This is more the offensive midfield setup where I think more we'll see Camavinga as the 6 and Valverde is the 8. I think for Real Madrid as well, we're talking about flipping the defence for Alonso. I think that'll be a similar thing for Real Madrid, where the 8 will actually play on the right-hand side and the 6 will play on the left-hand side. Just thinking about balance, you know, when you're looking at the left-hand side, we mentioned previously, it'll be the more offensive side of the team. You know, you're playing more of a natural winger in the wide area. Mendy's got to be a little bit more attacking, which makes sense to play your 6 on that side to provide balance. Again, when you're looking at the interchange of, you know, let's say Trent and Valverde, that could definitely do that on the pitch. You also think the playmaker's going to be on that side as well. Having a box-to-box player that can move off the ball after passing it could be really crucial for Real Madrid in the final third. But again, fluidity, but the 6 on the left, the 8 on the right-hand side. So now we move to one of the most important positions in Alonso's system. The wing-backs are so crucial in attack, in defence and progression options. The big thing when you're looking at the Leverkusen side was how high the right wing-back would get, Frimpong, and the interchange and moving of positions of Grimaldo moving inside to progress the play. As we mentioned, due to Real Madrid's kind of squad right now, you'd expect those roles to be flipped, and Trent Alexander-Arnold very much to play on the right-hand side of the defence. I think when you're looking at that kind of the role and the interchange, he'll be the complete wing-back. He will be the player that can get on the ball in deep areas and control the play. That being said, the 2 players need to be really good progression options. The top 2, since Alonso's first season in charge in Europe, were Grimaldo and, of course, Frimpong. These are 2 players that receive the ball high, but they make things happen. Only 2 defenders in that time have been directly involved in over 25 goals. And that is Grimaldo and Trent Alexander-Arnold. When you look at Grimaldo statistically, he's very similar to Trent in terms of creating chances, shot creating actions from dead balls, but also shot creating actions from live passes. What Real Madrid want to do is get Trent on the ball in these deep areas, allowing him to find the number 9 in behind the defence. Of course, that's probably going to be Kylian Mbappe, and that could be a really dangerous move. Think about all the passes that Trent's played to the likes of Sadio Mane across the pitch, or alternatively to Mohamed Salah to get in behind. I think as well, defensively, Trent Alexander-Arnold still has a bit of a problem. Only won 40% of his tackles versus dribblers in the Champions League this season. Playing him as a wing-back means he's higher up, means that players can cover him, players can support him. You've probably got the best shuttler in the world at the moment in Valverde in terms of helping out those fullbacks. And again, in certain moments, we could see those 2 players switching positions, allowing Trent to get on the ball in these deeper areas and being that kind of progressive option if Real Madrid need that. But a lot of creativity will come from that right-hand side, and it's a big, big reason why Real Madrid have signed Trent is to allow him to get on the ball. On the other side is quite interesting. So we're looking at the left wing-back. We want a winger in this position. Frimpong was absolutely elite at creating chances after dribbles. He had the most in Europe following a carry than any other defender. I think when we look at the Real Madrid squad, this potentially is where a slight hole is there. You could potentially play Rodrigo out there. I think that would be a good option. Rodrigo has shown a really good tactical awareness under Carlo Ancelotti, playing the unselfish role in the right wing, but actually coming up with some really, really good numbers. He's a player that I really like and a player that would really evolve Real Madrid's attacking side. That being said, of course, Fran Garcia comes in as the natural option. Fran Garcia has a lot of similarities to Frimpong in the sense of he's pretty quick. He's good at pressing high with his speed. He's also good at dribbling, crossing the ball into the box. He's very much a natural left winger, whereas Rodrigo would be more of that kind of right footer, playing on the left-hand side, driving in. But I still like that because I think Rodrigo is a top player. So that's, again, the makeup of the wing-backs. You know, in terms of the recruitment side of things, Real Madrid probably need to look into the market. You know, Ait Nouri in the Premier League has similar carry stats to Frimpong, whereas Gutierrez is an ex-Real Madrid youth player that would provide a little bit more of that Grimaldo ball-playing quality that he's shown at Girona in La Liga. But at the moment, I think Rodrigo is probably the best option in this system, and, you know, you just have to work out how they play off the ball, which we'll look at a little bit later on. So now let's move into the front 3, starting with the second striker role. So for Alonso, that was either Hoffman or Adley, and they play on the right-hand side of the front 3. For me, I think Real Madrid have got to flip it, similar to the rest of the makeup of the side, as we've spoken about Trent and the right centre-back, the left centre-back and the left wing-back, flipping that attacking line, playing the second striker or the inside forward on the left and the playmaker on the right is much better for Real Madrid's squad. Of course, in terms of that inside forward, Vinicius Jr. is the perfect guy. In the last 4 seasons, he's been directly involved in more goals than any other player in the Champions League. He also has 18 assists in that competition. which is 6 more than any other player in the last 4 seasons. His ability to hold the width, but also play inside, get into the box and score goals is all there, and it's perfect for Alonso's style of football. Quite like the idea as well, if, for example, you got Rodrigo driving inside, Vinicius pulling wide. Again, this is something that we're starting to see with back threes, is those kind of wing-backs carrying inside in possession of the football. And of course, the reverse movement for the winger, moving into that wide area, giving Real Madrid such fluidity on this left-hand side, backed up by Camavinga at defensive midfield, and Mendy, one of the best defensive players in Europe. So now let's move into the advanced playmaking role. Florian Wirtz did it for Alonso at Bayer Leverkusen, and I expect it to be Jude Bellingham for Real Madrid. In terms of skill sets, what Alonso wants from his number 10, the playmaker of the side, he wants him to receive passes, either on the half turn or back to goal, get himself turned, and then deciding to carry into the final third. This is 101 what Florian Wirtz did. He's very, very good at finding pockets of space to receive. Similar to Jude Bellingham. He's really good at receiving, turning himself, and then carrying forward. We're looking at the Florian Wirtz statistics. He ranked number 1 for attacking midfielders since the start of last season for progressive passes received. Always an option for his teammates. That being the number 6. That could be the centre-back, the wide centre-back, central midfield, and so forth. This is something that Bellingham could do. But also Florian Wirtz ranked 5th for carries into the final third. Again, another part of Bellingham's skill set that is absolutely elite, his ability to drive forward and carry the ball. In terms of passing into the box, Florian Wirtz ranked 4th, another thing Bellingham can do. And also when you look at through balls for players under 23 in Europe's top 5 leagues since the start of last season, Florian Wirtz is number 2, Jude Bellingham is number 5. Given that Bellingham will have more touches and more possession, if we look at the touches statistics right now, we can see that Wirtz has a lot more than Bellingham. Given that Bellingham's now going to be playing in a team that focuses getting the ball to the attacking midfielder, we'll see more touches, more through balls, more goals, more assists. Which moves us on to the last position within the side, and that is the number 9, of course. That's not Erling Haaland, it's Kylian Mbappe. I think when you look at Kylian Mbappe and we see his improvement, I like that he's really started to become a 9 that can come off the line and receive to feet, get himself turned, and then move into the box. Scored a really good goal against Rayo Vallecano where he kind of started receiving with the ball back to goal, played it wide, and then moved into a kind of left channel position, received an outside the boot through ball and scored. Fantastic. Mbappe is growing. He's scoring a load of goals for Real Madrid. But I think the big thing with him that he could work on, and something that Alonso will get out of him, is in that involvement in the game. You know, his assist numbers is definitely something at Real Madrid that could be even better. We look at Boniface last season, that was Alonso's number 9. He got 8 assists in the Bundesliga, which was only better by Ollie Watkins as any centre forward in Europe. I expect Mbappe's assist numbers to become even better. He's got the quality out wide, he's got the quality in the pass. He'll be more involved, he'll have more touches, which will just mean he'll create more opportunities and score more goals. Very, very exciting. That front 3 of Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. and Kylian Mbappe with Rodrigo as a left wing back. So now let's talk about the defensive setup, because I think this is a really key part of what Alonso does in Madrid. As good as Xabi Alonso's teams are in possession, they're just as good without the ball. His Leverkusen side would drop into a 5-2-2-1, using the central overload to block the middle of the pitch, with their front 3 putting constant pressure on the ball and the wing back closest to the ball encouraged to join the press. Alonso's men can be very difficult to play against and often force their opponents into long balls that are easily recovered. If teams won't go long, Alonso sets pressing traps by encouraging them to play passes from wide areas in central midfield, where their box midfield can spring one of those traps. Key to this approach is the energetic front 3 and an intelligent double pivot who have to judge when to step out of shape to press and when to hold their defensive position. Meanwhile, aggressive and confident centre-backs are also required to track their men or jump into midfield to make tackles. I think this basically will be the attacking setup. Dependent on the shape and system, maybe we'll see, at times more like 3-man midfields on the ball with, maybe Camavinga sitting a bit deeper, Bellingham moving to a central midfield position, them going with kind of a 3-5-2 in possession, with both fullbacks super high. We've seen Alonso do that with Leverkusen this season, playing a 3-man midfield, arguably a kind of 3-3-4 structure, similar to Inter Milan that they've done and been so dominant in the Champions League and in Serie A. But I think defensively is kind of the question marks here, just in terms of how it would all work together. Of course, Real Madrid have basically been defending in a 4-4-2 this season with Real Madrid, and that's something that potentially could happen with this setup and with lineup. You know, you're thinking it's quite simple. You know, Rodrigo moves to a left midfield position, Mendy drops into left back, Rudiger goes to that kind of left centre back, Asensio moves to right centre-back, Trent drops in, Bellingham moves to wide right, and we're seeing a similar move from Jude Bellingham, you know, against the ball, sitting in that position, but as soon as Real Madrid win the ball, moving into that attacking midfield area, Trent moves high, Rodrigo stays in the same position, Mendy tucks in possession, Rudiger tucks in possession, and Asensio moves a little bit wide as well to be that ball player. I think this works quite well, a 4-4-2 structure off the ball with a 3-4-2-1 on the ball. But taking things even further, you know, another shape that Alonso's used this season from a defensive sense is a 5 at the back structure. What we'd see there, potentially, Asensio moving out to kind of a right-sided centre-back role, Mendy tucking in, Rodrigo dropping as a left wing-back, Camavinga, Valverde, Bellingham being the midfield three, and Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. being high. Again, the big thing with Alonso, quite quick in the transition. The gegenpressing style, they will go quick, which will get a lot of Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe, but even more in possession. But this setup, of course, when we're looking at the other players we mentioned previously, you know, throwing in a Fran Garcia into this setup to be a little bit more defensive and have more of a natural left footer on that side would work. Similar thing, 5 at the back, 3 midfield, 2 up front. All sorted, all solved. Xabi Alonso is going to evolve this Real Madrid team. Tactically, on the ball, I can't wait to see what he does with Jude Bellingham and Kylian Mbappe. I think those two players are going to be so fun to watch under the former Real Madrid central midfielder. But anyway, guys, I've been Statman Dave. If you are new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel.